Peace and welcome to my channel, The 30-Second Path, where we traverse ignorance by study, practice, and practice and more study. The only way that you will shine the inner light upon your inner darkness so that you can see every component that exists within yourself. So, with that being said, as I said here in the 30-Second Path this evening, at this moment, I'll be sharing some information that I have studied and looked into that I found interesting, and I believe that you will find it interesting as well. As you see the title, your endocrine system, chakras, and health as it pertains to magical practices, becoming a living God. Excuse me. That's the main thing everybody seeks right there. They seek to become a living God because they we all seek to eliminate the weakness of the mortal self. So we want to become greater than what we are. So in order to achieve that specific goal, you have to uh, study the wholeness of yourself, which is a scientific process. And here, uh, within this realm of the 30-Second Path channel, we will study from the esoteric point of view, which is scientific uh, study of what can be considered the occult, which is basically information that has not, excuse me, information that has not been in the brightness of light, so everyone could share together. So it's been hidden. So pretty much that's what, to give a short, small definition of what we call the occult, that's pretty much it. It's just information that has not been privy to everyone. So it's become termed the mystery or secretive, which is not. It's just this that we're not taught how do these systems correlate. How does the endocrine system correlate with chakras? What does it mean for our health? And because we all have particular magical practices, and I'm speaking to those within that community, as I said, occult scientists, those who are walking the path, trying to get past the veil of self-ignorance. So, with that being said, um, let me minimize this bar, this floating control. Um, I came in sharing my screen, so hopefully everything is up and running. This is my flagship YouTube video. It's my very first video, and I thought that I would start it off like this. This actually was something that I created a while back, and I've kind of added to it. Excuse me, I apologize. I've kind of added to it um, as time went on, but it's I'm going to say that it's a constant. This is not set in stone. It's a constant study. So we know that we must constantly endeavor to perfect ourselves. So with that being said, let's get into a little bit of this information right here. So as we said in the title, speaking about the endocrine system, scientifically and anatomically, this is the composition as it is in the human body, the human structure. And what we know about the human body, it's the densification of a spirit body. This is what in this is the outfit of the spirit realm, the uh, energies that cause this physical form to be active and interactive here on this earth plane. And within this body, we have this system. We have multiple systems, but we're going to just speak. I'm going to touch on some points here about the endocrine system. So we have the pineal gland. Um, I know that I'm speaking to those who are educated on the pineal gland. The pineal gland is very important within the human system. Excuse me. And we'll get into the actual chemical system that the pineal gland. We'll touch on all these, you know, as this unfolds. So the endocrine system consists of the pineal gland, posterior pituitary gland, thyroid, thymus, adrenal cortex, pancreas, ovaries in women, testes in men. These are the components in the system part of the body that produce the chemical processes that relates and transfers this information through the electrical system of our body, which we know is the nervous system, the neurological point. So it's just two pictures showing this showing the placements within the body of these particular parts of the endocrine system. And these are, as you see on the right, these are the actual systems right here. So to expand on it, the endocrine system is the collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth and development, tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, and mood, among other things. I apologize, excuse me. Other functions to keep our bodies working in balance called homeostasis. So to touch on this just slightly, this is the chemical, as I said, the chemical system which is manufactured through these glands, produce these chemical processes which are called hormones, which basically run the system. The operating system is regulated by these particular functions here, is what becomes a part of our personality. So this is what I'm saying as far as we must begin to understand ourselves very, very deeply and scientifically to understand the magical practices, because it takes mind, body, and spirit, or soul as we call, but we'll stick with the word spirit. So we know that without the functioning of these processes right here, the body becomes imbalanced. And that is not um, the process, what we know working in balance is homeostasis, as states here. A hormone is a regulatory substance produced in an organism. That's what we're talking about. Ourself is an organism and transported in tissue fluids, such as blood or sap, to stimulate specific cells or tissues into action. This is why in some spiritual systems, blood is what feeds the spirit energy, blood offerings, because blood is life. This is when you are initiated into particular African systems. They're going to sacrifice a cow. They're going to sacrifice a goat, pig, chicken, because the blood is what has the essence of the system, the essence of the system that makes it work. So what we're dealing with is DNA. We're dealing with energy that's transmitting ancient information through our blood system. So this is what I'm touching on for each and every one, to think beyond the normal way of thinking. And let's think um, about how the thoughts of our mind, we think, always come from the mind. A lot of time thoughts are stimulated or they're filtered through the mind, because that's another story to go into about the componentry of the mind. The information is filtered through the system of the mind from anatomical levels within our blood, anatomical levels within our tissues, in the cells. This is where the ancestral energy lives. That is why blood is so necessary and important in these systems. So once you think about these concepts abstractly, scientifically, very intuitively, you will begin to unfold the mystery of the occultic anatomy of man and woman. So another definition, another word, homeostasis, any self-regulating process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. Regulating process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. Think about magical practices. Think about the practices. How much energy does it take for you to draw in and project outward with focus to create a manifested outcome that you're seeking? Huh? For optimal, not just for survival, but optimal performance and success. If homeostasis is successful, life continues. If unsuccessful, disaster or death ensues. This is where, see, I could have made this slide so many different slides, but at a particular point, everyone would have lost focus because it could continue to go on. So that's why I said it's an unfolding in the making. It's an unfolding, a continuation of a lessons, because as we study these here, you'll begin to realize that when you study the devis, the gods, the lords, the archangels, angels, and all of these different things we study to have all of these particular titles, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about these biological systems acting on their quote unquote own within our body, which will act conducively for life or death. Okay. So we're going to touch right here on the chakras. Let's go right into it because we just touched, and we're going to pair these informations to correlate them so we can understand that this electrical system, let's call the chakra system an electrical system. We know that this is a living system that's not going to be able to be found within the physical body. These are the spiritual systems that correlate with the actual physical systems that can be found within the body, because it has to have an unmanifest and a manifest. Not saying that the chakras are not manifested, but these here are only interacted through the electromagnetic energy of what we're calling spirit interaction, meditation, or the takwa chudi, or different practices that we'll get into as I continue to learn and grow on YouTube. So each of the chakras in the body is paired with an endocrine gland and governs its function. So the chakra system works with the physical system, which is the endocrine system, which we know is our actual chemical process that communicates with our body, whether it be for pain or pleasure. And I'll touch base on that as we continue. Uh, the first chakra we know begins down at the root. It is called the root chakra or the Muladhara chakra. And this deals with your reproductive glands, your testes in men, ovaries in women, controls sexual development, and secretes sex hormones. Now, over here, which I know probably on your screen, it might be really low resolution and the font might be low, but it's speaking about the location, the base of the spine. The pelvic floor is also what it's called, has an associated color is red. And these are also topics, but not, these are points for topics that can be expounded on later. You can ask me questions and we could go through this, the associated color in anything, there's an associated symbol. This is a four-petaled lotus. So this right here is the lotus. In Sanskrit, it's called a padmi. One, two, three, four. These are the four petals of this lotus flower. You have a pitch vibration. This is dealing with the pitch vibration of C. So anybody who's a musician, played any instrument, you could actually begin your work on each one of these chakras with the vibration or the note. There's also a crystal that's correlated with each chakra, and that of the Muladhara is the smoky quartz. As I said, the pitch vibration is C. You also have a suggested yoga pose for each of the seven chakras, and this one is the Mulasana squat. You can use any particular squatting is going to deal with, as it says, the pelvic floor. Anything that strengthens the pelvic floor can be utilized as a yoga pose to not just activate this chakra, but to purify it. Because before activation, it begins with purification, but actually begins with realization that there is work that needs to be done within this lotus flower. So that's the process. You must become activated through realization that there is a time to begin some work. And so, second chakra, sacral, deals with the adrenal glands. Sacral chakra is also called the Svadhisthana chakra. Svadhisthana, adrenal glands, regulates the immune system and metabolism. This deals with right here. This is in your sacrum area. We're gonna touch on that. I'm gonna expound on that a little bit because that's important. These two, especially the Muladhara and this sacral chakra, particular 1 and 2, activates 3, 4, 5, and 6. You understand? So it begins here at this root, and this is very important. Swadhisthana has a color orange. It's 6-petaled lotus, as you see right here in this diagram. And I won't go into every one of the crystals. Vibrate pitches D, suggested yoga pose. You have the what they call a Buddha pose. You can use that to keep it going. Solar plexus deals with your pancreas, regulates metabolism. So as you know what metabolism is, this is the process of burning energy through food. So we know that the solar plexus, or the soul binding area, or solar center, is dealing with heat. So metabolism is that process of burning. This is your stove. This is where your processes of deep breathing, regulating the fire energy is coming through here. And this color is orange, 10-petaled lotus right here. Uh, we have the heart chakra, of course, after the solar plexus. Thymus gland regulates the immune system, as well as the sacral chakra. You can't have anything sacred without having heart involved. So that's the whole thing. So you got to keep in mind, as I said earlier, you have to think abstractly because multiple things will be connected. There's a connectivity within the system, and all systems upon this planet and society. It's all connected. Um, what was that? The heart chakra, anahata, is the Sanskrit term, and it deals with green. You know, F is the pitch, um, and we know the location. Throat chakra, also called is called the Vishuddha. English is the throat chakra. Fifth chakra, thyroid gland, regulates body temperature and metabolism. This dealing with heat and also the process of metabolism as well through the throat chakra. This is where we can begin our process of mantra. This is where we regulate. Now we put words into power that generates the system energy through the solar plexus, so on and so forth. Third eye chakra, six lotus, or as you know, as we know, it's called third eye. Now, the ajna, color indigo between the eyebrows. This is a two-petaled lotus. This is letting you know that this is an eye right here. If you look at the actual symbol, it is dealing with the eye. This is the all-seeing eye. This is dealing with intuition. Scientifically, anatomically, deals with the pituitary gland, produces hormones and governs the function of the previous five glands. Sometimes the pineal gland is likened to the third eye chakra as well as to the crown chakra. See how this says right here? This governs the function of the previous five glands. The third eye. This is the overseer. There's always an overseer, and this is represented by this sixth chakra, which is the ajna. And we know this also the which I like healing crystal is amethyst. That's what it deal with. That pitch I believe is A. So also the child's pose, as it's called, or the downward dog, are suggested yoga poses for the actual ajna purification. And I'm not going to say awakening, because that's a whole nother lecture build right there about awakening chakras. The first thing a person should do is come to a realization that these chakras must be purified before attempting to do what's called opening them or clearing a pathway. That's a whole nother thing. Not that it's not capable of being done. It must be done in due form and in a decent and in order. So the seventh chakra and the last chakra, not the last chakra because there's other chakras, but the seven here are what we're dealing with when it comes to this physical form we call a body. These are the most important chakras that we must be conscious of, and we must purify and have them working in, as the word said earlier, homeostasis and balance. So this seventh chakra deals with the pineal gland, regulates biological cycles, including sleep. We know there's much more than that, but these biological cycles deal with circadian rhythms, dealing with what they call a regulation of night and day. As we like I said, we know that we're dealing with the arcane sciences and occult sciences, and we're dealing with these, talking about sleep and biological rhythms. This is kind of like dealing with time, but if you're seeing with the real third eye open, you know that there is no the the concept of time that we know from 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It's a mathematical process for keeping measurement of how we're experiencing day to day activity here on the planet. This type of time is not talking about that. This is talking about a living experience through cycles of cosmic energy right here, biological cycles, including sleep. Sleep doesn't have a particular, when you're in a sleep realm, dreaming, so called, so forth, there is no such thing as time. There is only experience. There is only being. So this is something else that can be expounded on through your own individual study. I won't go too much deeper into that right there, but that's pretty much what we want to. I wanted to touch on that because it just came to mind. So moving on, this here is a graph, a picture graph, just demonstrating, expounding a little bit more on each of the glands, dealing with the pineal, starting with the pineal hormone. It secretes as melatonin. Now we know, as I think on my next note, it's going to say this is not just dealing with pigmentation right here. This uh, system and chemical hormone process is throughout all your organs. All the organs can be found this particular chemical. But let's also, like I said, keep in mind that what's called a hormone is a communication system, which is a living being, which correlates to all things that we call angels, demons, ancestors, so on and so forth, gods, lords, dominions, so on and so forth. So we see functions right here of each, that the pituitary gland. I'm not going to read every single thing, but these are the chemical processes of what these uh, particular systems collectively transmute this communication process right here to these organs that interact. This is our physical organs that run this body like a car. And here are the functions of each and every one. Okay. So I'm going to just move on. I don't want to make this a very, very long video. Hopefully, I'm not moving too fast. Hopefully, this you will find some importance in here, and also I would strive so that it will can leave an impression upon your mind to maybe do a study, or even if you're already studying this, or this is something that you already know. We never stop learning, so there's always more to add to the cup. The cup is never full. We want it to run over. So as I was saying earlier, about these systems right here, this is how the next slide is going to show right here. This process is called neurotransmitters. In the body, there are over 50 known neurotransmitters which convey a rich selection of possible messages between neurons. And many of these transmitters have over a dozen different types of receptors. Neurotransmitters, the brain's messenger molecules, come in two forms: monoamines and neuropeptides. You see what I'm saying? The brain's messenger molecules. See, we've been seeking something outside of ourselves ever since that's the impression that's been placed on our minds, as I said, looking for a savior, looking for a way out, looking for the thing that's going to help us obtain pleasures and items that could alleviate pain and suffering. The whole time, what we've been looking for is our own selves. So, through our physical body, if we're operating at optimal health, then we have the ability to actually change our physical reality because no one else can. Nothing outside of you can. You utilize things outside yourself as tools for to build the system of the way that you want to live, which is we call the magical practices or a magical lifestyle. You can title it whatever you want, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So these components or these molecules, we have number one, we have small molecule neurotransmitters. The key monoamines, these are the keys. These are the most important ones. Serotonin is made from amino acid tryptophan. And this is what it does. It calms, alleviates pain threshold, promotes sleep and feeling of well-being, reduces aggression and compulsive behavior. Dopamine is made from the amino acids phenylalanine and tyrosine. It increases feelings of well-being, alertness, sexual excitement, and aggression, and reduces compulsive behavior. Norepinephrine is made from dopamine. It also increases well-being and reduces compulsivity. GABA is made from the amino acid glutamic acid, glutamine, or glucose, which we know that to be like a sugar. It reduces anxiety, alleviates the pain threshold, reduces the blood pressure and heart rate, and reduces compulsive behavior, as well as glutamate, aspartate, glycine, biogenic amines, ATP, and N-O-histamine, and prostaglandins. All of those are parts of what's being made within the small neurotransmitters. This is transmitting through the nervous system. Neuro means through the nerves. This is being transmitted as the electromagnetic energy being transferred through the body in the chemicals or the liquid. So now look at it as solids, liquids, and gases. The gases is an unseen form. This is the ether. Just another term. Gas is just ether. Exists within the atmosphere that's unseen. But this is information that exists within the physical system as regulated hormones, which has a thinking process and a communication process. These are the levels that shamans and high performing yogins communicate with themselves with. They're not just communicating with the thought and memories of the mind, which is samskaras, memory, or thought impressions through sensual information coming in through the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. They're tapping into their own inner self, which is a bioelectrical energy, which we can call spirit or force. Okay. So we have neuropeptides, which are amino acids made in the cell body and transported to synaptic terminals. That's where the communication takes place, at these synaptic terminals. They share opiate receptors and regulate pain, analgesics, and pleasure. Neuropeptides are manufactured in the endoplasmic reticulum and are called opioid peptides because they behave in the brain like opiates, such as morphine. So when we have all these chemicals, see, anything that we utilize in medical science is already existing within the physical body. We just have lost the ability to operate and activate these systems because we've lost the techniques. The techniques have been taken away from us. So their functions include regulating immune response, raising pain thresholds, stimulating feeling of well-being. And this is why those who practice deep spiritual practices and self-analysis and proper yoga, they are able to slow down even the process of death because they begin to communicate with these inner systems, their inner self, their inner functionings. So they share opiate receptors and regulate pain. Neuropeptides are manufactured in the endoplasmic reticulum and are called opioid peptides because they behave in the brain, as I said, such as morphine. Their functions include regulating immune response, raising pain thresholds, stimulating feeling of well-being, regulating sexual activity. You see how these are all touching on the physical aspects of the Muladhara, how these are all the physical actions of the body. These are the conscious awareness of being conscious of what makes me feel good and what makes me feel bad. This is how they regulate us as a human species. People who are in advertising and marketing, they know how to trigger these inner chemicals to make us sexually active, to promote emotional balance or enhance learning. See how it says that's what the neuropeptides and amino acids do, as well as regulating compulsive behavior. There are three groups of neuropeptides: endorphins, ecophalins, dynorphins, and substance P. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving right along. Like I said, I do not want to be um extra long, and I'm just keeping it simple. I'm just talking, I'm just reading what I put together, and I'm just gonna keep it moving, man. The body is a physical representation of all non-physical activity happening at the same time. Thought and action are happening at the same time. So if we're consciously interacting with all of our experiences day to day, then there is no room for error. You must become pure in your thinking and in your energy output, because the energy that you're inputting is being filtered properly through your self. We'll call the self the body. And to continue, and the power centers, so thought and action and the power centers for this activation, cultivation, and utilization. Remember, I said activation, but as first as realization, you have to realize that something is not working right. Something needs to be tweaked and redone. So thought and action and the power centers for activation, cultivation, and utilization of higher senses / abilities lies within the chakra system. This is where that begins. This is where higher activity is being taken place, that the endocrine system mirrors through the physical system. It's acting through what I just briefly went through in the endocrine system is spiritually happening on a higher level in the chakra system, okay? Or your internal chi. This is the flow of your, and I'm saying the electromagnetic energy. So this chi or awakened energy, because awakened just means you're conscious aware of your physical self and how it is operating. There is nothing that's a mystery to you once you study yourself. Know thyself. So this chi or awakened energy is concentrated within the endocrine system's ability to create the hormones fueled by the energies of the chakra vibration. There must be a correlated system of healing and balance on both ends that's needed for optimal maintenance. These hormones are collective consciousness operating within you. Collective consciousness. The ancestors. I spoke to the ancestors last night. The Archangel Michael visited me last night. Those are your collective consciousness. And as you continue to learn and study and grow, there are many realms of collective consciousnesses. That's why there's similar practices of things and systems throughout the globe. They're tapping into spaces, atmospheres that are depositories for collective consciousness that we can then experience and utilize so it operates within us. This is a diagram. This is actually two pictures. The one on the right, of course, we know this is the tree of life. This right here, of course, as we see, the tree of life in its form, in its diametric system, and its Sephiroth and its paths is overlaid on the human body, because the tree of life is you. There is no separation. There is no separate tree that's like over here. And you know what I'm saying? You can look at the different spheres from Kether to Mount Kuth. No, this is you. All of these are in you. The planetary correspondences, the positioning of each one, they're all in you. This is your um this is your alignment. Excuse me. Okay. The one on the left, soul energy, life and consciousness. This is what I was saying right here when it spoke about on this last slide, this collective consciousness right here. Excuse me. This is the soul energy. On this tree of life, this would be up here in this white area, which is white because the light is so bright that there's nothing. Light is begetting light. The light is not even light, it's the essence of light that light looks like. You can't even explain this type of thing in proper words to make it make sense. So this is where everything radiates from. So as you see, you have the soul energy, life, and consciousness here. So now we're getting into these energetic flows that operate through the human form. So right here it says 5 radiating energy waves. These are the 5 senses. 5 radiating energy waves. They go up. The upward flow is positive. See, it's not dealing with something that's you like it is positive, you dislike it is negative. This is upward inflow. This is like the same as batteries. You have to have a negative and a positive energy. So energy can be utilized to empower. So we have right here the life breath waves. This is dealing with prana. This is dealing with the activating forces that, as I said earlier, and I wrote here, your chi or awakened energy concentrated within the endocrine system. It's able to do what it does, because of the life breath. And the life breath is not just the breathing, it's the soul force energy of the creative source right here. So this we know is the caduceus. This all represents the brain, as it shows here, your spinal energy. These two serpents represent Ida, Pingala. This is the flow that they're flowing in. Always, Kundalini flows through this middle center right here. This is from Muladhara up to the Sahasrara. The energy must come out and it must wash over. This is baptism. That's what this is, the true baptism. There was 2 baptisms when you study like certain biblical stuff. It'll be one by fire and one by water. Okay. So we know that we have neuter. Nuit. This is neater. This is actually telling you that this is a particular aspect that operates in the area of the brain. This is the God mind, the God force. This is an awakened consciousness right here. You have respiratory energy. These are all representing um and the vetting information. These are like sattvic and rajas and tamas. These are called gunas. These represent forces that are being acted out upon in the physical body, and it's called digestion. It takes fire energy. Don't forget that we went through the solar plexus. This is being done digestion. See the generative. This is right here. This is the Malkuth. This is your sexual energy center. In elimination, we know what that is. So this is an alchemical process that we're experiencing here that comes through the brain to be filtered to become. The brain must filter this thing, but it must come out pure. If your brain is not pure, then none of this is going to happen. This is all going to be perverted and misused. It's not going to be negative, it's just going to be misused. So we must find the inner spiritual homeostasis that will keep our energy empowered. Your inner God must be empowered and vibrating within the conscious state that we need to sustain a successful and stable life. When all of these systems, I can go back to the previous slides and all those, the chemicals of the endocrine system, when they're not functioning, when your chakras are not functioning correctly, then you're underproducing specific chemicals. And as it states, particular chemicals deal with your well-being. That's what leads to what is called depression and anxiety and all of those states of mental illness deals with a operating system which is called the chakra system not operating correctly. There's a lot of impurity going on. You have to filter out. You have to purify this thing. Okay, and awaken God consciousness. This is what we're trying to get to. You can only have an awakened God consciousness in pure, pure mind. And I'm not speaking of some religious, moralistic dogma system like you have to be this righteous. No, I'm talking about purity. I'm talking about something that's filtered. There's no fluff right here. There's no games. There's no trying to cut short, do shortcuts and shit like that. You're doing the work. You're working yourself. Supreme confidence and clarity to swiftly and continuously evolve and expand. You can only be confident when you operating through a supremeness of self, meaning that you understand that who you are, not who you trying to be, some fucking wobbly human being. So a damaged boat will eventually sink and a broken glass cannot hold water. Those are actually those that's wisdom. I remember hearing it. I had to say it. So it's the same with the body. A broken body is not going to be able to contain the infinite power of the spirit, which is all about expansion. Okay. So we're getting coming to the close. I'm coming to a close pretty soon. I had to put these here as well because, as I said, we're getting. You see where we begin with the process of this physical self, learning endocrine system, the chemicals, what they do. So now we have to get into a spiritual thing with these chemical processes. There comes concepts. Like I said, that's information that's being shared. So as we see right here, we have the we have the crown, which we know is the head. This is represented by Saturn. We see what this stands for: prudence. There's also a side, as we said. There's a successful side and there's an unsuccessful side. This is what we consider the negatives and the positives. Okay, excuse me. We are going down to justice. With justice, you have envies as an opposing side. There's always has to be a balance dealing with the head. It's dealing with the consciousness of self, dealing with the consciousness you're holding now, which you're becoming judgmental because you're observing outside of self. You're looking with only the eyes. You're not looking with your spiritual, non-physical eyes. Strength and anger from the throat, from Mars. War, anger. I'm sick of this. Speaking it loud on earth. The real strength is in a soft voice. Confidence, confident strength, softness, the heart, soul, sun, faith, pride. Pride destroys the heart. Pride is not needed because to be faithful is you have humility. You don't have this weakness, humility, turn the other cheek like chump stuff. No, humility. Then you deal with temperance and charity, hope. As you can see this right here, hopefully you have the virtue, you have the vice, you have the planet, you have the soul center, which we know as the chakras, and you have a vowels. You have vowels and notes. You can also put these, correlate these with the Hebrew letters. They're more powerful, more energy resonance with Hebrew, with Latin, with Sanskrit. Parallel with this, I have the seven Hermetic principles. You can't live any of these principles in an operating system that's faulty. These are systems of purity. These are systems of truth. These are systems of clarity. These are principles of truth and clarity. These are these are principles of hermetics, hermeticists, alchemists, magicians, powerful people of the mind and spirit know that the principle of vibration, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Knows the principle of polarity, everything is dual. We just looked at that, vice and virtue. See how these all tie in together? This all ties in. Polarity, if you're the neuropeptides and the transmitters are not operating correctly, there's not going to be no pairs of opposites. They're going to still be pairs of opposites, but they're going to be faulty and broken and weak, no pulsation. So if you don't know about the 7 hermetic principles, it's something you can look into. Right here to show again the chakras correlating with the particular system of the body. The pineal gland secretes a melatonin, not to be confused with the pigment melanin. This is what I touched on earlier. Its secretion is dictated by light. That's why it's good. You're supposed to sleep in pitch black dark. You're not really supposed to have like, LED lights, TVs on and stuff like that. That messes up. The pineal gland produces its own inner light. It's dictated by light. It's not dictated by light. It's dictated by its own light. What's light to the pineal gland is darkness to our physical eyes. That's a light to the pineal. Melatonin has 2 primary functions: control your circadian rhythm and regulate certain reproductive hormones. I keep putting that right there because there's a secret, there's a mystery to this, and you really have to meditate and study this, your circadian rhythms and your reproduction. So I'm not going to touch on all of this because I have already. You're the people that I believe this video is touching are students of the occult and the arcane, and they understand the esoteric and the abstract information that's being transmitted through my video humbly. Okay, so we have the chakras right there. This here is going to touch on the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine, is where Kundalini is supposed to lie cold, you're awaiting to rise. Several factors led the ancients to this symbolic idea of the coiled serpent. First, when Kundalini does rise, one of the initial pathways it takes seems to be around the spine between the 2 sympathetic trunks. That's the symbol of the 2 intertwined serpents that I had showed earlier on the caduceus. This discharge of a double helix of energy can be felt rising upward around the spine, for it appears that energy is flowing backwards and forwards up the ladder of the spine from ganglia to ganglia. Those are centers, those are meeting points, those are joint conjunctions, nexuses of nerves and bundles. Imagine that this energy is transmitted in this double helix at the beginning of an awakening prior to the inner conjunction through the Sushumna Nadi, or central channel of the spine. Now here's a diagram. I couldn't make this bigger because it loses its resonance. It looks real bad. So hopefully I can explain some of it on here, because there's one particular point that I'm going to touch base on that before we come to a close. And this right here is showing the Brahmanadi. This is basically what we're calling the Sushumna. When you get into a deeper study, it'll also show you that there's more to this chakra and Kundalini system than even what we've learned. So this is also dealing with sattvic, tamasic, and rajistic qualities as well, because those are, as I mentioned earlier, polarities of our system that have to exist because that keeps the balance. So here are the intertwining basically of the electricity. The blue, as we see here, is the Pingala Nadi. This is dealing with the right nostril. This one right here, which is red, this is the left nostril. This is the Ida Nadi. They end within the nostrils. This is why you could actually do particular practices of closing one nostril to do breathing exercises. You also know what nadi is operating, which one is dominant, because either one or the other of our nostrils are always going to become stopped up. Something always gets stopped up. So just to touch base on some more about the cerebral hemispheres and what goes on in here, the seventh chakra, which is the Sahasrara chakra, which we know is it has 1,000 petals, which is basically a number that they correlate to this because this you don't know how many petals is on the flower because there's so much light there, you just don't know. This is the cerebral cortex, union of the Sadhisthana and the Kundalini. This is where it meets within the cerebral cortex, the cerebellum. You see the medulla oblongata. This is where, when the Pingala and the Ida end, the energy is not just ending; it flows into a more subtle form as it filters through these particular centers right here. Okay, so to get down here, we have the this is the first, as we know. I want to touch on these two, the Swadhisthana and the Muladhara, the sacral coccygeal plexus, the Muladhara chakra, the perineum, sacral coccygeal plexus. This is very important right here. Sacral coccygeal plexus. Remember that. So we have the Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala, just to finish that up about the flowing energy. These always flow. The Sushumna up the middle is a different thing. This is the pathway of Kundalini. Sushumna and Ida are activating energies that keep us balanced, whether we know it or not. Okay? So the Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala nadis come to a knot at the root of the phallus and again at the level of the eyebrows and separate. The upper knot is called the Trivena Yoga. The confluence of Yamuna of Ida, Saraswati of Pingala, and Ganga of the Sushumna, and Anana, which is bathing, there gives rewards. This is the full benefit of Ajna Chakra. This is speaking of Vedic sciences right here. These are yogas. These are our lords, Yamuna and Saraswati. You could influence, and you could. We'll put it like this in a regular language. The working of these energies or these deities operate there. Okay. Then you have the Brahmanadi, which runs in the spine cord from the Muladhara chakra to the Brahma Andhra, Sahasrara. It's also called the Brahmanadi. Brahma, we know, is a supreme God. That's what this Sushumna, this is basically the high form. So that's why I said the God, becoming a living God when you deal with this. Okay? These nadis take their origin at the Kanda Mula, the urogenital triangle. These nadis take their origin. So there's a physical location that you can feel, work with, to begin to purify and activate your Kundalini. And this takes place in the triangle, the area, the urogenital triangle, which is the area between the anus and the root of the phallus, or posterior commissure. Okay, and I'm going to show that. This right here, first let's deal with this. The word Kundalini is derived from Sanskrit. We know that means kunda, meaning coiled up. So Kundalini means coiled. We just attribute it to a serpent because we see serpents throughout the ancients always found something in nature that demonstrates what they're trying to say. Okay, but kundal means coiled up. It is the primordial dormant energy present in 3.5 coils at the base of the spine and a triangular bone called the sacrum. This is the sacrum. Okay. Now, here's something right here I found interesting. The Latin name os sacrum suggests that it is a holy or sacred part of the body. The ancient Greeks were aware of this, and therefore they called it Heron Ostion. Nothing that is nothing that it was the last bone to be destroyed, noting that it was the last bone to be destroyed when the body is burnt, and also attributed supernatural powers to it. The Egyptians did the same thing. They found it valuable and they considered it the seat of special power. This is where your sexual energy, this is where your chi, this is where the woman gets her energy to be the goddess. Okay. So this is the sacral spine. This is the sacrum. This is the holy grail. This is the sacred of sacreds. Sacral hiatus. See right here? This is your coccygeal. Hopefully you'll see my pointer. It's a posterior surface. See right here, 1, 2, 3. This is where the actual, this bone is not the kunda or the mula. This is the actual place where the energy exists. This is where it resides. This is it right here. This whole area where you feel that fire when you become sexually aroused. This is all happening here. This is the curve in the back. This is also what we call your tailbone. Okay. So I'll just put this here so you could see, this is, you could see it. This is what it would looks like in anatomy. You can find the actual sacrum, but you won't find. See, this is the bone of a person who once existed. You don't see Kundalini here. This is a medical chart. They don't even have nothing that says Kundalini because they don't deal with that. But we know because we're studying the science. Look at this right here. We know that this represents this coiled serpent. It also looks like a rattlesnake tail. So we're going to be coming towards the end. I think there's only a few more slides left. So this right here is just to show, to illustrate again the major chakras and the nadis for Kundalini risings. A lot of people enough are not aware that they just say Naida, Pingala, Sushumna. These are the Brahma Nadi, the Chitrini Nadi, Vajra Nadi. You have to see, that's what I'm saying, that through study, you will see that there is so much more than just the basis. I'm touching on it, and hopefully you will do an independent study, leave a question, and we can study and we can go through this together. Because I'm going to continue this process right here. This is the gateway to the skull. See how it is pointing right to that nose area. But don't forget, when you breathe in, you have different bones in your skull that actually move, that cool, that heat the air that enters the brain, that enters the skull, the gateway to the skull. These are all symbolic as the veils, because don't forget, these are these dealing with the tree of life as well, and the points of the not just the points, but the Sephiroth and the pathways. These are the pathways. The Sushumna is the pathway center, going straight towards Muladhara to Keter. And as you can see, multiple different things going on here, swirlings. Mahamuksha, which is the liberation point, door of liberation. The Bindu is not just the people with dots on their forehead. This is actually the point where the Sahasrara, the energy is coming outward, which basically extends beyond many yards beyond the physical body into what we call the astral realm. And this is what pours over the body. That's where the information. Don't forget that we started out with the cellular structure. Your cellular structure is cells are speaking to the energy that's flowing from the Brahma Randra, mind of God. Remember just a few minutes ago, we read about this urogenital triangle. Here it is. We're grown. Let's go ahead and just let's get into the science of this thing a little bit. The urogenital triangle makes up the anterior portion of the perineum. It contains the roots of the external genitalia and the openings of the urogenital system. The female urogenital triangle is home to the opening of the vagina, the urethra, and the clitoris. These are very important centers of spiritual activation right here. Very, very, very important centers. This little area, if you can see my pointer right here, this is where the energy of the Muladhara. Actually, when yogas are sitting in the Padmasana, the heel of their foot is pressing against this. This is a female, of course, picture, but this is where the heel is pressing against. This actually is another picture showing the urogenital triangle right here. Anal triangle. This is it right here, showing the exact spot. This is the anal. This is the sacral, or the coccygeal, or the coccyx. This is the central point of the perineum. This is showing another picture of it right here. This is a masculine form. No superficial and deep perineal pouch is part of the urogenital. So it's just a bundle. This is a lot of nerves. A lot of nerves are communicating with the physical system right here that communicate with the spiritual system, which communicates with the higher mind. Okay, so that right there concludes the actual PowerPoint, but I'm gonna put in one more, I'm gonna just show you one more thing right here. So let me bear with me to figure out how to actually take off this to, wait a minute, not pop, here it is. Let me put this here. And I always forget how to, okay, there it is. Show the floating thing. We're gonna stop this share. And what I'm going to do now, actually I do need to share. I just need to share the screen, just not that PowerPoint. So I'll share my desktop, and I want to just show you a picture, because this is gonna tie it all into you. So hopefully this is working. So it says you are screen sharing. So I'm screen sharing the whole thing. So what I want to bring back to your memory is this, even though we just went through it, I just want to touch it. Come on now, thing. Let me move this. High floating this. Okay, so let me move this. Now everything is moving slow. Boom. Okay. So let me just go here. Scroll to the bottom, slide. Right here. See this? Because we're back to being small again. So this was the urogenital triangle. See how you have the anal triangle? Keep that picture right there in your mind. And I'm going to show you this right here. Let me see, where's my photos of it? Boom. Look at this. This brings together there's no mystery when you do your proper study. See this right here? See how you have your Masonic symbol? This Masonic symbol is the same thing that we just was looking at, the urogenital triangle. What they're showing you right here in this center is not just as they put the eye of providence, they're actually showing you the point of where the nadis begin. So this is the seat of intuition, and the intuition is of higher knowledge. So there is an eye, the eye of providence, which basically looks over everything. So once this serpent rises up, the eye is open. So there would be no open eye unless you open the lower eye. So hopefully that was able to be shown, because as I said, I'm still working through this here system and everything and figuring out how to have flow easy with it. So that's just if my screen, hopefully my screen is still being shared, because I put down the little thing. So let me pull back up the viewer and show the floating meeting controls. So it does say I'm sharing the screen. So let me just close that one more time so I can go back. So hide the floating control. Let me go back over here. So as you can see, I have just a couple. These are some photos that I have. These are some of them that I have put together. So now you can more better understand when you start seeing occult pictures. Okay. So when you talk about the urogenital triangle, see this here, the blade, the chalice. See how this is called the chalice? That's what they mean by the Holy Grail. This is the sacral coccygeal bone structure. See how right here, this seal of Solomon, this ancient seal of Solomon. See how you have the light solar masculine joined with the dark lunar feminine. If you turn this upside down, there's a whole nother face right there. That's him. That's the light. This is the awakened man. This is not just the unconscious man. This is the physical man. And as you can see, as within, so without. This is what these symbols represent. This is what the human body is composed of. It's composed of these uh, alchemical, mystical componentry that have become a mystery to the majority of the people, because we've lost our connection to spiritual things that have been taken away because people were fearful of them, and they knew that they were power. There was power that was held within these systems. This is how we were at one with nature. This is how we were at one with self. And this is how we became a living God. So, with that, I'm going to say thank you for those who will join the uh, viewing of this video as it's posted upon YouTube. And I thank you for taking the time to do that. So, with that, as I search for the view thing again here and the stop share button, I'll hit that. And I want to say thank you, good evening, and hope that you found something in here that could feed your uh, inner self as you continue your path of searching. So I thank you for joining me, your host, your speaker, Xango Atum, Sithari Xango Atum, and my channel was the 30-second path. Peace.